fear is my most valuable portal to unconditional love. Anytime I'm in a space of fear, I know it's the opportunity for me to learn how to love more deeply.
Would it surprise you to learn that the vast majority of us spend the vast majority of our relationships operating out of fear rather than out of love? What does that look like? And why are we doing it? We don't want to live like that, right? Well, today we're going to figure all of this out with transformational life coach Anne-Marie Tresso. We're so grateful, friends, that you've joined us on the Lessons from Living podcast. Let's go. Hello, Anne-Marie. I'm so glad you're with us today on Lessons from Living.
Me too, Beth. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to
Yeah, thanks for
conversation.
being here. Well, I know you're a life coach. We've talked a little bit prior to this interview, and it seems like whenever I meet a life coach, I like to know what brought them to this place of wanting to share life skills with other people. So if you can go back and think about your life experiences that kind of culminated in bringing you to this point, what would that be?
It would be 22 years ago when my first marriage started to fall apart. I was pregnant with my third child at the time, and life was unraveling, as was I. And, it was one of those you feel like you're drowning moments and you can't quite figure out how you're going to start swimming again. And through that whole process, I like to say I woke up. I was sort of led on a spiritual path and a journey to my own awakening. And as I began to come out from under, all of the fear and all of the stress and all of the anxiety and all of the mess that I had co-created in my life, I started to see a little more clearly. And it was like someone turned the lights on and I was like, "Oh, why didn't anyone tell me that then? Why didn't I know all this before?" So as I started to wake up and I started to see more clearly and get aware, more self-aware, I just really started to feel this longing and this desire to share what I was learning with others so that others could also sort of like the yellow brick road, right? In The Wizard of Oz, it's like, oh, just follow this path and you will get where I think most of us want to go, which is to lead much more deeply fulfilling, satisfying lives connected to the people we love the most. And I don't think many of us have that formula yet.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. And this was a long process for you, right? I mean, the process of going through the divorce and coming to this realization of what you wanted to do next. I think, tell the story about your training. I thought it was interesting how that your training kind of served you as well as preparing you for what was ahead.
Yeah, it was interesting because I did have a friend. I was flat broke, going through my divorce, 3 kids, just trying to get food on the table kind of a thing, and a really good friend of mine called, and ironically, she'd gone through a divorce at the same time I had. We were sort of co-voyaging around that life experience, and our kids were friends and all the things, and she had since moved, and she called me and she goes, "I think you need to do this life coach training with Martha Beck." And I was like, "Yeah, do?" She's like, "Yeah, I think you have to do it. And here's my friend who's signed up for it, but I just had this hit that you had to do it." And I was like, "All right." Well, I was in car line trying to pick up my kids. I had to get dinner made. Like the last thing I'm thinking is adding any kind of big commitment to my life. And it was one of those moments. I'm sure you've had many, and I'm sure many of listeners have had moments like this where you have that voice inside you that just won't quiet down. And that voice just kept saying, "Do it, do it, do it." And my voice, my logical mind voice was like, "How? How? How? Like, I don't have the time, I don't have the money. Who am I to be, a life coach? My life is a mess. And the voice inside me just kept saying, follow this. And so I did. And I had to decide within 24 hours because the registration was like the next day. So I had to figure out how to find the resources. I had to make this decision. And it was just one of those things where I just followed that voice that didn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And the resources arrived and the time arrived. And I was just taken into this experience, is really how it felt for me. And that was the beginning of my journey that put me on this path to exploring, all the things that I have since explored, starting with coaching 22 years ago, I guess now. And it's been one of my greatest gifts for myself. So as I moved through that process, it really helped me become a more empowered version of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you're learning these things, like any good teacher, you learn, you want to teach others. And that's when I started going out and sharing what I was learning with others. And then it's just evolved. It's like a snowball effect, what I was learning about myself and my relationship. I was helping other women who were navigating difficult relationships. And then I was like, wow, this is really helpful in my role as a parent. I can apply this to my relationship with my children. And wow, this is really helpful in my relationship to my adult siblings and my family. And, oh, wow, this is really helpful in every relationship I have in the world. Why didn't anyone tell me these things? I went to school for 20 some odd years and I didn't learn any of this in school. So these are really important skills that I think I wanted to pass on to my children first and
Mm-hmm.
foremost, and then apply to my life in all the ways that I could.
Yeah. That's a neat story. I just love how the training that you took to help others healed you and helped you grow as you were trying to reach out to others in the same way. So let's talk about that voice inside you that you mentioned, because I know you said that you have a memory of it as early as 12 years old. Do you consider that to be a divine voice?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Okay. Sometimes I think believers, God followers, and those of a more secular bent are experiencing the same things, talking about the same things, but we might use different vernacular to
Yeah,
describe it. So when I heard that story, I thought, well, that's the Holy Spirit. That's, that
yes.
is God's spirit in me. So I was just curious. I was wondering how you think about it.
I do think about it as a divine voice. I think about it in all the ways that all of us think about it in whatever vernacular works for us. God speaking through me, light, my higher self speaking through me, spirit speaking through me. There's so many ways we can describe it, but it's this part of me that's deeply connected to source, whatever source you feel connected to. And it's really truth. And that voice that you mentioned, I've had with me since I was 12 years old, or even probably younger, but I can remember, times when I was 12 years old and I was hearing that voice. And I remember at that age, I never questioned it. I never doubted it. I never thought twice about it. It was just sort of my reliable voice, my best, closest friend, my ally.
Mhm.
And then you start to grow older, and then the voices of doubt start to come in, and culture and your family and others start to seep in, and those egoic voices start to come in and start chipping away at this trusted inner voice inside you. And
Mhm.
so slowly over time, me and my voice created some separation, and I've spent the rest of my life reconnecting, trying to reconnect to that voice,
Mhm.
trusting that voice when that voice comes through, leaning into it, and all the things. And the older I get, the harder it is.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I do think of it as God's spirit in you. And I know I see it as being somewhat distinctive from me in that, well, A, is a lot of times it's something I would never come up with on my own. And B, a lot of times it's something that I don't want to do necessarily,
Yes,
because
oftentimes.
it's uncomfortable or it's something that I'm being challenged by, so it's kind of interesting that it's within you and yet it doesn't feel like it's of you. And that's why I think, I mean, to me it's just so distinctive. Well, that is divine. That is separate from from myself.
Yeah. I have a little bit different relationship with my divinity. I believe when I'm fully connected, I am one with spirit
Mhm.
or my divine self. We are fully integrated. And then when my egoic self comes in, I become separate from my divine self. But I agree with you that this voice that tells you to do all the things you're like, I don't want to do that thing. Like, that's not the thing I want to do right now. Yet
Right.
you're being called. And the beauty of it, the beauty of being human is we have free will
Uh-huh.
and we choose. We sometimes we don't listen to that voice and then we get results. We get consequences. And that's where we get our learning. And boy, I don't know about you, but I have some learning. I've had some
Oh, yeah.
learning for years.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, that makes sense. And if you are one with divinity, then it should integrate. You should be perfectly integrated with that voice and hopefully at peace with it. It seems like the disconnection or the dissonance there is you kind of fighting back, resisting against it in a sense.
Absolutely.
Okay.
100%. It's the resistance that's always
Yeah.
interfering.
Well, you talk about how you are either operating out of fear or out of love. I'd like to break those down into really a practical picture of what that looks like. When I'm operating out of fear, I look like what?
Yeah. I offer clients and my students that I work with this question, which I'll just share with you now, is where am I? And that question helps you discern, am I operating in this now moment from this place of fear, which 99% of the time as human beings, we are operating from fear, or am I operating from love? And so back to what we said earlier, that divine voice, that is the voice of love. And anytime we have the I don't want to, or anytime there's resistance or contraction, then we're operating from the egoic places of fear. And you can catch yourself if you start to train yourself by becoming more aware, by listening to the voices in your head, by paying attention to your actions and behaviors, by what you're saying out loud or maybe just to yourself in your head. Things like very simple things like, I can't, it's impossible, I don't know how. All of these voices, all of these things that we say are really things that are coming from our limited human perspective, not our divine perspective. A divine perspective was like, there will be a way. There is a way. Thy
Mhm.
will be
Yeah.
done. But there is always a way. Yet in our limited scope here on planet Earth, we can't always see the way. But
Right.
when we trust and we have faith and we believe it and we're listening to that voice that you and I have been talking about, there's always a way. Just like that one in me who's like, I don't have the money, I don't have the time, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And then suddenly when I said yes, okay, it was like all the doors opened and everything fell into place effortlessly. Now, it doesn't
Mhm.
mean we don't effort.
Right.
It just means it's not super hard or super difficult. Like,
Mhm.
it's hard to say. The hardest part is saying yes. The hardest part is trusting. The hardest part is having faith. That's the hard
Mhm.
part. So we use these clues, like we pay attention to our body, for instance. If there's contraction in the body, if your jaw is tight, if your shoulders are clenched, if your gut is clenched, I bet you're operating from a place of fear 99% of the time. If you're feeling light and free and open and joyful and playful, you're in that divine experience of trust. You're more than likely in that place of unconditional love and trust. So that's one clue, one way you can track, am I in a place of love or am I in a place of fear?
Okay. Is it really, do you think the percentage is that high that we're usually in fear?
Well, on some level, I do.
Uh-huh.
Think about the culture we live in, think about what we're consuming.
Yeah.
We are being fed fear through our news, through our media,
Mhm.
through our social media. So it could be something small like, I don't know what I'm gonna make for dinner tonight, right? It could be something really small, but where we are being conditioned by the culture to be contracted.
Mhm.
And the more contracted we are, the smaller we are. The smaller we are, the less powerful we are. The less powerful we are, the less impact we have in the world. So, as individuals, we really want to stay connected to our full source, to our power, so that we can have the impact we're here to have. And if we're contracted around how am I going to pay those bills? How am I going to get my kid to do their homework? How am I going to get my ex husband to agree with me? Like even just these little things, right? If we're distracted, we're definitely in those places of fear on some level. And it's happening all day long, all the time. I can't find a time where I flip open my phone. I've done all the things. Turn off the notifications. I try not to get the news, but there's always something like what is happening in our government today or what and there's always some place in me that's like a little contracted. I can always find it.
Wow. Well, that makes sense. It's just disturbing, I guess, to think about spending most of your life in that state. So, what you're doing is very important, I think.
It's definitely what I like to say to people is we don't like the idea of being entrapped by the ego, but we're human. And that's just part of
Mhm.
the deal and the agreement of being human. And why I like to teach what I teach is the more awareness we can bring to the ways in which we are operating from fear and our vibration is low. David Hawkins' map of consciousness is a good scale to use to help you identify like, am I in a low vibration or am I in a high vibration? The more we use that to build our awareness, the freer we become. So we actually want to spend much of our time being honest with ourselves. I say, let's
Um,
be radically honest with all the places we're contracted so that we can free ourselves.
okay. I'm thinking it seems like it takes a lot of work that
Mhm.
and well, let's talk about in a relationship, like if you have a person coming from a place of love and then one from a place of fear, I imagine this is where we get a lot of our conflict from. How can you reconcile that with each
It,
other?
it's tricky. It's a really great question. And it's sort of at the core of the work I do with couples. So, this is the thing, right? Let's say your spouse or your partner is contracted and in a place of fear. Your job is really to pay attention to the way that their contraction is having an impact on you because as human beings, we're like magnets for one another and we're entrained to one another's energy systems. So, what happens, and this particularly happens with women, because we are so deeply connected to nature, we're very resonant with nature. So, we are very tuned in and we can feel energetic vibrations far and wide. So when our someone in our family system is disrupted, we're feeling it in our bodies.
Mm.
So the the master tip is can I stay connected to my place of power, my source? Can I stay connected to higher vibration, love, all the things? Can I stay high while others around me are low. And what we do is we become a magnet, or we're drawing others up towards. Some people might say towards the light. That's an expression people like to use. But really we want to be the magnet that is attracting the other out. Now, that is so hard because your partner's grouchy and they're stomping around and doing their thing, and then you get triggered. That's what's happening. We get triggered. So, once again, that's where we go and explore this question: what's going on over here in this individual system so that I can bring myself up and out, and then I can support others in doing the same, because that's how powerful we actually are. Now, I will tell you, my husband and I are in a thing right now, and we made some big life decisions recently, and we're both navigating them. We're moving through our emotions. We have some grief, and we have some sadness, and we have some fear. And his mood is sort of impacting my mood, and we're kind of going back and forth. And it's been real deep devotional practice for me to stay over here in my own practice without entangling over there in his. And I don't like it because I want it to be easier. I want him to be, he's typically a very upbeat, joyful, high energy guy. And we're just in this period right now where he's struggling a little bit. And then I'm struggling a little bit, and I don't like it. So again, to your point, what you said earlier, my not liking it is bringing more resistance to the resistance that's already existing. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So the practice for me is like, first, can I go accept myself for feeling my resistance, for being resistant to his grouchiness? Can I accept myself for that? Not him. Like, we don't go over there yet, because if we can't accept ourselves first, if we can't bring love, compassion, kindness to our own experience, honor that experience, then we have no business trying to go over and help anyone else. So our oxygen mask first. Can I have compassion for myself? And when I start to, the image that's coming to mind right now for me, Beth, is like blowing up a balloon. So, like, it's like opening my heart. I'm expanding my heart a little bit when I bring compassion to myself. I'm like, okay, yes, Anne Marie, it's sad when he's that way, and it's hard, and it's not fun. I get it, all the things. And once I'm able to have that space and compassion for myself, then I'm more expanded, and I'm more available, and I'm way more attractive to him. And then he'll energetically want to lean into that, because we are all wanting to be in that space of unconditional love. Well, that's what we want. So when we start to sense it, we lean into it. So the more I can do that for myself, the more I can invite him in. And if I can't do it for myself, then I have to take responsibility for, like, taking space, removing myself, doing something different until I can get to that space. So it it's work. It's work. But what I will say, Beth, it's a lot of work until it's not. It's sort of like going to the gym. Like, it's going to take a few months, maybe weeks, maybe years to get your muscles really strong and built. But once you're there, then you're just doing maintenance. And
Yes.
that's the place we want to get to, maintenance.
Okay. That makes sense. I have so many questions now over things you've talked about. So, in the moment, like if you're in that state, maybe of being triggered, like you said, and maybe we can talk about what that really looks like. But if it sounds like if this requires getting back to equilibrium, kind of requires this inner work, when you're in conflict like that with someone, do you actually have to take a moment, like to get yourself right, like you're talking about, accept where you are personally before you can address your partner or
Yeah.
whoever you're in conflict with? Or is this something retrospectively that you think, oh, I'm seeing this in myself when I think back over that conversation or something? Is it something you try to do in the moment?
Well, that's what we work towards, right? So
Okay.
in the early stages when you're playing in this world of conscious relationships, you are first going to do this retrospectively. You go
Okay.
back and you go, "Oh, that's what I did, and that's what I did, and that's what I did, and okay, now I know how to undo it." And it's just like anything else we're learning when you're learning to ride a bike. You're like, "Oh, I didn't balance this way, and now I have to try again." But then again, as you build that muscle, you start to become way more attuned in the moment and you're
Mm,
able to apply it in the moment.
okay. That makes sense. It's interesting what you said about women having a particular receptivity to energy, what's going on around them. I've always felt like I can't end my day. Sometimes at the end of the day, I'll just feel like something is awry. Or there's something going on that I may not even be able to put my finger on, but then I just kind of run through, is it a relationship?
Yeah, it's
Someone is
something
not right out there. We have 6 kids, so that's part of it too. There's a lot of people I have to consider, and then friends, but it's almost like you can sense
yes.
that something is not right, and it's very much in my heart to want to make it right before I even go to sleep. A lot of times I can't sleep until
Yes.
I'm at peace about that.
Yes, that's so true. It's hard to sleep when we're not at peace. You know, what I would say about this, as women, remember I talked about how connected we are to Earth, Mother Earth,
Mhm.
nature, like we are the givers of life. We're connected to the source of life itself. We are our energy system is deeply rooted into the earth. And just like, the mycelium network of system of trees and the root system that's happening beneath earth, that's happening energetically inside us. So when you go to bed at night and you start to settle, you're connecting with that source of intelligence that is connected to all those that you are. First of all, we're connected to everyone in the world. That just is. But your deepest connections are the people you're closest to. So these people that you have been gifted, your 6 children and your significant other and your friends, that's your first network. So, of course, when your nervous system starts to settle and your mind starts to settle at the end of the day, you're going to start becoming attuned to where the vibrations are off, what's not settled. And of
Mhm.
course, your mind is going to then want to go figure that out
Yeah.
because we want to get back to attunement. Now, here's the trick. We've gotten into a habit of going out there to fix our kids, our spouse, the world, something else, so that we feel grounded and sound and at peace. The challenge that I think we're all being invited to right now is that we go get grounded first and that there's nothing out there to fix. That this is the only thing that we need to attend to. So for me, what happens, my husband and I share a family of 9. So we have 9 children and 3 grandchildren. And of course, I'm always tracking all those people. And so when I feel something's awry with one of my kids, and they're all in their 20s now and figuring life out. So there's a lot to be awry, as you know. I'm I'm remembering that it's not mine to fix. I'm only here to be a grounded, sound, loving presence. And that again is the invitation. So when we start to get into, I want to fix, I want things to be okay over there, that's again when we're back in the ego and we're in a place of trying to control. So we want to
Mhm.
be really careful. And as parents, this is the hardest thing we do.
Mhm.
And I haven't mastered it yet. I have not mastered this skill. I'm getting better, but we deeply want our kids to be okay. We have the answers. We know we know what's best. We do know. And in some ways we do, and in some ways we absolutely don't. But we have to let go, and we
Yeah.
have to go back in here and trust that whatever's happening in their world is actually for their highest good, even if it's the worst possible outcome we can imagine in that moment.
Sure. They have to do their own learning for sure.
Yeah.
So, in thinking about uh, being this way, living this way, I heard you say it's a constant choice. Every day you're deciding okay, how you're going to show up. But that level of awareness just seems so daunting to me to be at that being tuned in.
No.
It just seems so difficult. Is there a way that you suggest starting your day that can get you there? Like just being very intentional, being conscious of where you are and where you want to be? Is there a
Yes.
practice that you
Yeah.
participate in?
On my very best days, I'm meditating, yoga, journaling, breath work, doing all the things. On my barest days, I'm just taking a breath and connecting to source and finding something to be grateful for. At the very least, we want to start on a clean slate. We want to start in the highest vibration we can possibly start throughout the day. So for me, that it's like hygiene. It's like spiritual, mental, emotional hygiene. So do not go read the news first thing in the morning.
Good advice.
Do not open social media first thing in the morning. Do not go clean the litter box first thing in the morning. Like, sit for a moment, connect with spirit. And that could just simply be a moment where you sit up in bed, you say good morning to soul self. I am here to serve. Whatever it is, I'm here to be grateful. Find the highest vibration you could possibly find in that moment and breathe into that for a moment and then move on with your day. And the longer you can be in that high vibrational space through meditation, breath work, music, my husband loves music, journaling, the longer you can stay in the vibration, the more you can hold it throughout the rest of the day.
Hmm.
So that it's so easy, Beth. Think about, you wake up, you hop out of bed, "Oh my god, I'm late. Oh my god, I have to get going." And then we're already adrenalizing ourselves.
Yes.
We're draining ourselves, we're draining our energy. So we really want, every night we go to bed, we make sure we plug our phones in so our phones are supercharged for the rest of the day. We got to do that to ourselves. We have got to plug into source.
That makes sense. This kind of changing the subject, but you commented at one point that you felt asleep for much of your life. And for people who are listening to this and thinking, like we've said, this seems like a lot of work. I'd wonder if that's why we stay in these patterns of familiarity. It's comfortable. You talk about getting in a rut, staying in a state of moderate
Yes.
content. Co- is that the word? Moderate, yes, moderate content,
Yeah, content.
where nothing is stirring us. How do you recognize that's where you are? I think that's really hard to realize when you're in that rut and then work to break free of those kinds of constraints.
Yeah. Well, it's a good question. So I would invite anyone listening in right now to just do a mild inventory
Okay.
and ask yourself, how exquisite is my life right now? On a
Hmm.
scale of 1 to 10, are my relationships as exquisite or more exquisite than I could ever possibly imagine? Is my work more exquisite than I could ever possibly imagine? Is the place I live more exquisite? Does my body feel like it's operating at the highest, most exquisite vibration it possibly could? And for most of us, I would say that's probably not true.
That's quite a challenge.
I mean, in the world that we're living in, it's a challenge. So how can we have. For me, I want to have the most exquisite life experience I can possibly have. It's my one chance here on planet Earth. So
Me.
I want it to be the most exquisite possible thing. So how can I take responsibility for that? And that's going to mean, you've said this a number of times, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And that is one perspective, but it is a devotion. Am
Uh-huh.
I devoted to experiencing my life in this way, or am I devoted to experiencing my life in this way? And the choices I make are going to be the results I get. So if I want to be physically fit and healthy in my body, I'm going to choose to eat particular things. Now, last night when I was exhausted and dinner came and it was like, am I going to make the salmon and asparagus and salad and it's going to take an hour and do all the things, or am I going to order the pizza? Believe me, the ordering the pizza was very tempting. And so you have to work with yourself and really you're recommitting every moment of the day to the life experience that you want. And
Sure.
recommitting, you're saying, I have this choice right now. It's a choice point. Every moment is a fork in the road, and some of them are dinner and some of them are divorce, but
Sure.
everyone is a fork in the road, and you have to go, what am I mostly deeply devoted to? And then the choice becomes clear from there. Not easy, but clear.
Hmm.
The more awake we are, the more connected we are to the experience that we want.
Okay. I love that. Okay, so we're focusing on what is exquisite. You said the thing that you most wish for your kids is that probably they figure out what is that exquisite life. You said what is theirs to do, what brings them joy, what allows them to contribute to the world. How do you, as a parent, help them discover that? See the value in it, first of all, because I think sometimes when they get through school and all of the responsibilities that they're kind of burdened with to a certain point in their life, they're not even they're not thinking exquisite necessarily.
No,
They're
they're not.
thinking,
I like
okay, how do
my
I pay for my apartment? So how do you guide them through that?
I'm in the midst of that
Yeah.
now because, like I said, my kids are in their 20s and they're figuring that out. For me, I planted the seeds as much as I could early on. It's not about the money. It's not about the money. It's not about the money. It's counterculture because that's not the message they're getting
Right.
anywhere else. So we have to plant the seeds 100 times more than what they're getting out there. So it's for me, it's been a combination of me me suffering a little while they suffer, making decisions that I don't think is going to take them on the track they want to be on. And let's face it, when people we love are making choices we don't feel are aligned for their highest good, we do suffer because it's painful to watch people we love suffer.
In
Uh,
that instant, though, how much guidance do you offer them? Do you not? I mean, is it hands off, or do you point out the fallacy of the road that they're going down? Do
this is
you
good.
give
This is
them
good.
guidance?
It's a both and, Beth, and it's really this is why this work of being in conscious relationship to the people you love is so important. And as women, staying present is
Simply.
so important because there isn't an answer to that question that applies to every situation. So, for instance, right now, I have a 24-year-old daughter who's trying to navigate what she's doing with her life. I have a 26-year-old son who's going through the same thing. And it's hard for them. They haven't figured it out, or they think they haven't figured it out yet. I would say, of course you haven't figured it out yet because it's still too early to figure it out. Um, but the answer is really staying present in the moment to A, what are they available for right now? Right? Like, what is it that they're available to actually hear without shutting me down and out. So you have to gauge that. So when you're present, when you're fully present and you're in that space of unconditional love and you're not coming from ego and control, you're really able to tune into what is the other open for. And that's my entry point. That's the portal. And that's where I know, that's where my wisdom can drop in. And my wisdom might be a question I ask them that sort of like pokes them awake a little bit or tries to, or it might be reminding them of something I've said before, or it might be, like you said, real sage, straightforward advice like, I don't think this is right for you. But there isn't a right answer. The answer is tuning in the moment, listening to that voice, that voice you and I
Mhm.
started talking about on the very top of our call. What is that voice want to say right now? And what are they available for? Because it doesn't matter what we say, if the other is not available, it's going to fall on deaf ears. And it might even create resistance that they
Mhm.
become less and less available.
Yes.
So sometimes my practice is I've just got to watch them fall. And then I've got to be there when they ask for my hand to help get up. Because if I go there and give them my hand and they don't want it, then it's also a misstep. So it's really like, how can I constantly be a loving presence that is drawing them toward me
Mhm.
rather than pushing them away? And that's a practice. It's a deep
Mm.
devotional practice of connecting to that inner wisdom that we're gifted with. We have that.
Yes, I love that. And I like the emphasis on presence too, making yourself available. I'm laughing because my husband forever has said, it does not matter what you have to say and how wise it is if someone is not receptive to hear it. So,
It's true.
same wisdom. That's excellent. While we're on kids and families, I work in the court system with families that are completely broken and so dysfunctional.
Yeah.
And of course, that is an extreme end of the dysfunction spectrum. But
Thank you for your
probably because of
service.
that work, yeah, probably because of that work, the parent child relationship it just weighs heavily on my heart
Yeah.
all the time. And it's just my prayer that we can see some health restored to relationships across the board in this way. I know you talk a lot about communication, how that can serve to increase the quality of relationships. You've addressed it a little bit with the older kids, but specifically when it comes to those parent-child relationships, and I guess I'm thinking about younger kids who are still in the home where you are with them day to day. What are some guidelines you could offer as far as communicating well with your kids?
Communicate with an open heart. And I think knowing when your heart is open is the most important thing we can do, whether we're communicating with our younger kids still in the house, older kids, our significant other, another human being on the planet. An open heart is an invitation to love. And I would say, like I said earlier, 99% of the time our hearts are closed somewhat. It doesn't mean our hearts are slammed shut and we're not loving beings, but in some way, we are experiencing a contraction in the heart. So, particularly when our kids are little or in family systems like you're talking about, there's a lot of fear and a lot of contraction
Mm.
that isn't being compassionately addressed, namely in the adults in the system, and then children entrained to that. So there's a lot of dissonance, and it's like no one's driving the bus. Everyone's in the back of the bus, and the bus is just all over the place. And the poor adults who are trying to figure out how to be are just children of other adults who weren't
Right.
guided well, and it just keeps being passed down from generation to generation. We are deeply connected from our hearts. We're just deeply connected from our hearts, and it's causing so much pain and separation and division. And like I said earlier, my job is to connect to my heart first and open my heart. So when my husband's cranky, my heart closes a little because what's really happening is I'm experiencing him as not available to be heart connected. Right when he's cranky, his heart's a little shut down, and I'm sort of this little girl in me having a little temper tantrum, going, "I want you back! I want you back!" And so when I can go tend to that part of myself that's feeling sad and disconnected, then my heart, again, like I said earlier, opens up. And then that's an invitation for others to come in because that is a vibration we're all seeking. But to your point, the work that you're doing, which is really big work in the world and so important, it's hard because parents are so fractured, parents are so stressed. There's so much pushing parents and adults down right now, and they're barely functioning on their own. So to be able to then hold space for another is almost impossible. And then our children are starving for that kind of connection and relationship, but it's not available. So then they become dysfunctional, which is actually the invitation to opening up. But we need a guide. We need really reliable, compassionate, patient guides to open everyone back up and open the system back up.
Hmm.
That's what you're doing.
Well, I don't know about that, but we try. So, as I said, that is such a challenge working with that population, but you would advocate for the same fix for even perhaps a family that doesn't have those external pressures that the families that I'm describing have. The open heart, being open-hearted.
100%. It just depends because, yes, the same fix. It's all about whether or not you're coming from unconditional love, which is an open heart, or fear, which is a closed heart. And I just want for anyone listening in, we're not making either one of these bad or wrong or good and right. There's just two different experiences. And we want to become deeply aware of our own presence. Are we present with an open heart or present with a closed heart? So that we can access the power to shift ourselves and get back to those open hearted places. Because as human beings, it makes sense. We have an amygdala, we have fear, we're conditioned to protect. All of these things are very, very normal, but we need to learn how to be in relationship to them so that we can open ourselves back up again. And then it just simply depends how much trauma there's been in the system, what's happened in that whole system, because all of those things need to be addressed and healed. And it's a very precarious, circuitous path. So, depending on the adults and the trauma and the work that they have to do to get back to that open hearted place, it could take years.
Mhm.
It takes a long time. We've got to get through the physical symptoms, usually show up in the body, the emotional symptoms, the energetic systems, the somatic symptoms, all of those things that were ignored for so many years. Those all have to be addressed, peeled back so that we can reconnect with the heart again.
Hmm. Very interesting. It seems like a lot of parents operate out of ego. There's some people that I wonder why they even have kids because it's like you're not having this child to be a separate little individual. You are wanting them to be, I don't know, of your own little creation, and I've heard people say they're more concerned, it seems like, with what their friends will say about a particular situation than the child and the child-parent relationship. Do you see that a lot where it's just they're coming from a personal perspective, not really considering the child at all?
Yeah, of course. Of course. I mean, how could we not, right? We are raised to please others. We're conditioned to please others starting in our family system when you're little and you're 2 and you do the wrong thing and you're like, I don't want mommy to be mad at me or daddy to be mad at me or my big brother to be mad at me. So I have to find the right thing to do so that I'm liked, I'm accepted, right?
Right.
Because Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we need to be accepted and in community. And so of course, when we parent, we wanna make sure our communities accept us and approve of us and all those things. That's human nature. The
Mhm.
the trick is becoming aware of that and then going back to making decisions that are more aligned with our source, our spirit, our soul, and not driven by what others think of us or our need to be approved of and accepted. And again, I mean, I feel like a broken record, Beth, but it goes back to, oh, can I love that part of me? This is all parts work. If anyone out
Yeah.
there's familiar with parts work, we develop these parts, like I said, when we're 2 years old, and all of a sudden we realize approval matters. I want my cookies. Like, how am I going to get my cookies? That person over there is in control of the cookies. I got to make them like me so I get my cookies. Like, it's very early. And so we
Mm.
quickly learn who do I have to turn into to get what I want or get my needs met. So these parts are very early. We come at them very honestly, and they're not our truest self, but we're so enmeshed with them that they feel like our true self. So
Hmm.
as we get older and we start learning and become more aware, we can start to separate or peel back the parts and look at them more clearly, love them up, let them go, and free ourselves from that.
Okay. Is there one thing that you think we do as parents that has the potential to be the most damaging to our kids?
Ah, what a saying. Well, just one? I have to choose
Like
one?
the biggest thing.
Gosh, for me, well, I think the thing we do is stop seeing them as sovereign beings.
Hmm.
Stop seeing them as their own individual beings, and we try and control them. I think
Mhm.
that's what I'm most guilty of. You know how you said you have 6 kids? You know how you're I don't know if this is true for you, but it's commonly true that the oldest feels like they somehow got the worst of it and the youngest gets the least of it?
Oh, we hear that, yes.
Yeah. You might hear that, right? And why is that? Because we let go more and more, we get
Mhm.
6 tries to let go, and I know with my youngest, she's now 21, the things that I was most afraid of, I'm like, "Yeah, whatever. I don't have time for it," and I can see it's not a big deal anymore. We start to get more trustworthy as parents, and then we control a little less because those things that we're controlling for in the early stages of our parenting career, we realize they don't really matter. And it just doesn't really matter. And then we get to the 3rd, 4th, 5th kid and we're like, you're gonna be fine. Like it's gonna be fine. And that's really coming from this deep place of surrender. Like, I don't have to control all the pieces. It's gonna be okay. And unfortunately, our
Mhm.
oldest kids don't get the benefit of that.
Right. Oh, that's great. Oh, let's see. Oh, we talked earlier a little bit about community. You mentioned Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how that is important, acceptance and community, how important it is in our health as human beings. And in an era of disconnection, which is, I just feel like where we are right now, how do you think we can seek to build community right where we are?
Yeah, I think that's our greatest challenge. For me, it starts in our family system. For me, everything starts in our family system. So it starts
Mm.
at the couple. So if you and your spouse or your significant other, you have to create community between the two of you, first and foremost, right? And then you're going to add someone in, you're going to have a child or and that person becomes the next layer of the community. And the more kids, the larger the community. The stronger our family systems are, the stronger our communities outside that are, right? Why?
Mm.
Because our kids are learning those incredibly important skills, community building, in their home first. They take what they learn at home and bring it out into the world. That's the gift that they are to the world. So if we don't build community in our family systems first, we're sending our kids off into the world ill equipped. So there's that. The way I look at it is my husband and I first. And I just want to say I'm now remarried in my second marriage. It's been wonky. It's been wonky. Like it's difficult to build community in relationship with your spouse, especially for anyone listening in who's blending families, because we're
Right.
families. So now he's got a existing community and I have an existing community. Now we've got to merge those communities and it's a lot to attend to. But I think it's the most important work we can do. We spend, not we, my husband and I, but that's true that we do, but us as parents spend hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars collectively educating our kids, putting them through school,
Mhm.
getting them tutors, making sure they're getting the good grades and getting into college so that they have the right smarts. But we're not equipping them with the interpersonal people skills that are really what's going to help them succeed. And that starts at home. It just does. So I think community first at home. Then we have, of course, a community of friends that we bring into our network and, the family layers into that and you keep building out from there. I think it's really important, Beth, that you have a community outside your relationship with your spouse and he has a community outside and we're building all these layers together. It's like pebbles in, the water. Like you drop and it trickles out and these you drop another pebble and that pebble blends with that. I don't know if that's a really good metaphor on on camera or not, but it's gotta start with you and your significant other. And if you don't have a significant other, then it's just you are your own community to start.
Mhm. I love that. I've never really thought of starting in the family, but I think it's true that your kids pick up on those skills. I know our family, our Thanksgiving has morphed into this enormous Thanksgiving because our kids will say, "Well, Tom doesn't have a place to go. Can he come?" And I'm like, "Yeah, bring him on." So our Thanksgiving has just become ridiculous, but I think it means a lot. It
Yeah,
means a lot to them,
yeah,
and I think it did become something within our family. It began here, so,
yeah.
that's really an important point.
Yeah, I guarantee you Tom wouldn't be invited if whatever one of your kids didn't feel safe in the community in your family, didn't feel
Mhm.
love, didn't feel the joy. Like you don't invite people into something that you don't feel comfortable, happy, joyful about. So
Mm.
what an honor, that your kids want to bring their friends in. It's a big deal.
It is a big deal. Thank you for letting me see that. Oh, well, Anne-Marie, this podcast is called Lessons from Living, and so I ask all of our guests, in thinking back over your life, is there a life lesson that rises to the top for you? And it might be something we've already talked about or something entirely different. Um,
Yeah.
but the answers are always so interesting. So,
Yeah. Ask me the question again. Is there a lesson?
okay,
Yeah.
think about your life of all the things that you've learned thus far. And it sounds like your journey has been full of learning.
Wow.
Is there a life lesson that rises to the top for you?
Yeah, like you said, there are so many. I would say the biggest one that's coming to mind right now is that fear is my most valuable portal to unconditional love.
Hmm.
Anytime I'm in a space of fear, I know it's the opportunity for me to learn how to love more deeply.
Oh, wow. I'm going to be thinking on that all day. You're taking a negative and turning it into something very beautiful. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been true for me.
That's neat. Well, as we close, Anne-Marie, tell us how listeners can get in touch with you, take advantage of all that you have to offer, where
Hmm.
we can find all things Anne-Marie.
All things Anne Marie. I like that. Well, my name is tricky. I'm sure you'll have it in the show notes, but it's AnneMarieCheresso.me. And that's where you can get all the good stuff. And I have a couple of free gifts for people. I have a fun quiz that I just launched, helps people identify all their different parts that keep them in conflict in their relationships. And so that's new for me. So that's fun for people. Anyone who's interested in doing that should go to my website and get the link there. And I'm on Instagram at Anne Marie Cheresso.
Well, excellent. Well, this has been so interesting and a gift to me and to our listeners too, I hope. But I really appreciate your time today. So thank you for stopping by and being with us.
It's been a delight, Beth. I'm so happy to know you. And thank you to all the listeners listening in. And I can't wait to connect more.
Well, likewise. Thank you. Thanks again, Anne Marie, for sharing with us. And thank you all for listening, friends. So grateful for you. I'm going to go work on my own exquisite life. And remember, hit that subscribe button so you're the first one to know when an episode drops. We're going to leave today with the words of Audrey Hepburn. I love her. The best thing to hold on to in life is each other. Go out and make it a great day.